And welcome into another episode of Locked On Wolves. It's the post-game pod from a Game 2. Wolves lost to the Lakers. LA hit first in this one, holding the Wolves to 85 points. We'll talk about what went wrong on the offensive side of the ball in this one for Minnesota. It's all upcoming. Welcome in. You are Locked On Wolves.
You are Locked On Timberwolves, your daily Minnesota Timberwolves podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Wolves podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. My name is Ben Beecken. I'm the host of Locked On Wolves. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Happy Wednesday, everybody. Happy hump day. And Timberwolves fall to the LA Lakers in Game 2 by 9. A lot to unpack in this one. I think there's two key areas in which the Wolves really struggled in this game, but also I think there's reason for optimism. And I continue to be, I believe the Wolves will win Game 3. From the beginning of the series, this is how I saw it going to this point. I think the Wolves will win Game 3. I'll talk about why. There's certainly a glass half full way to look at this game, but they certainly did not come out ready to play. And I guess that would be the start of the glass half empty analysis. We'll do both here on the show today. We'll get all into all of that here in just a moment. First, though, a big thank you off the top for making Locked On Wolves your first listen. Of course, you can watch on YouTube. You can watch on the Locked On Sports Minnesota app. You can listen wherever you listen to podcasts. A reminder, you can also subscribe to the newsletter at LockedOnDaily.com. It's a daily email newsletter to your inbox, all things Wolves, all things NBA. Again, sign up at LockedOnDaily.com. All right, so Timberwolves win by 22 in Game 1. Obviously, the home team's going to come back ready to go Game 2. And the Wolves said all the right stuff in the media, and it was fair to expect them to come out like they were expecting. At least they said they were expecting the Lakers to come out ready to go. And they came out even flatter than they did in Game 1. Remember, Game 1, they were down, I think, 7 at the end of the first quarter. And obviously, they blew the Lakers out for the final 3 quarters. In this game, they were down by 19 points by the end of the first quarter. Just 15 points scored for the Wolves in the first quarter, and foul trouble galore. That continued into the second frame. The Wolves were down by 15 at halftime. They cut it to 11 midway through the third quarter, and then it was back to 16 at the start of the fourth. They got it down to 9 a couple of times in the fourth quarter, back into single digits. I think it was 15-8 at one point in the first quarter, and then it was like final 4 minutes of the game. They got it down to single digits again. So credit the Wolves for hanging around. I never thought they'd be embarrassed in any games in this series. It was close there for a little while, and scoring 85 points on 38% shooting in the year 2025 is a little embarrassing. We'll talk about why that was, and really that's kind of the approach I want to take on the show today. I don't want to go blow by blow here for this one. I think I just gave a pretty good quick summary of what happened. I want to talk about the two areas that were the biggest problems for the Wolves in this one, and then kind of flip that and talk about what's fixable / the glass half full approach. And this is I haven't recorded this like right after the game, so I haven't watched the second time. This is immediate reaction based on my notes from the game. And we'll do that here today. And of course, we've got a couple days here, 2 more shows to break down what to expect before Game 3. So all that's gonna be what we do here today. We'll do studs and duds toward the end as well, as we always do on post game podcasts. If you're new to the show, we do that throughout the regular season. I do studs and duds, who played well, who didn't for the Wolves. We'll do that final segment here today. So let's start with the offense. We expected the Lakers, and by we I mean I talked about this on yesterday's show, and I'm sure the Wolves expected the Lakers to be more locked in, more intentional defensively. Now by more intentional, I mean both their scheme and then also the way that the players executed the scheme. Like Game 1, the Lakers didn't really ever put 2 on the ball on Ant. They did a couple of times. It was kind of half-hearted. They didn't switch as much as I thought they should have, and there were other times where they did switch and it didn't really make sense. I thought their rhythm and the reasoning behind what they were doing was all off, and the execution. Well, the Lakers were essentially playing boxes and elbows and packing the paint and trying to cut off driving lanes for Ant. They weren't contesting threes, and they allowed the Wolves to shoot a ton of wide open threes. Game 2, the Lakers were just more aggressive on the perimeter. They were trying to force the ball out of Ant's hands, and it wasn't always with 2 on the ball. It was just pressing up and being more physical. It's exactly what the Lakers didn't do in game 1. They were not physical at all. In this game, they were. And we'll talk more about the physicality. That's spoiler, I guess, my other main point. But that's related to the Wolves' offensive flow and lack of offensive flow, because the Lakers were getting up into Ant and trying to disrupt him as much as possible. They were clearly more open to doubling, and they were better at contesting threes in this game. They were just more active. And the Wolves, conversely, the decision-making was at least a half beat slower. There were a couple of possessions. There was actually one this was a huge problem early. There was actually one in the fourth quarter that stood out to me. I think it was Julius, Randle, and Nas Reid. I think Julius had the ball and Nas was in the corner, if I'm not mistaken, on the right side of the floor. And I think it was Randle. Whoever it was got the ball just above the break and froze. And the player in the corner was wide open. And it was like he froze, he looked, saw that he was open, kind of looked back. And then by the time he looked back at the player in the corner, there was a Lakers player that had recovered to the corner. They still made the pass. I think it might have been Jaden in the corner. Or no, it was Nikhil. It was Nikhil. And Nikhil pump faked the 3 and drove. And then, the Lakers were in rotation and the Wolves, whatever. But it should have been a wide open corner 3. And this was emblematic of the Wolves' offense throughout the game. And Ant was a primary culprit because he had the ball in his hand so much. But the reaction from the Wolves was just a half beat slow. And it's the exact opposite of what we saw in game 1. In game 1, it was crisp, it was decisive, and Anthony Edwards was the best example of that. It was not crisp and decisive in this game. So it really flipped. Like the Lakers went from playing lackadaisical and uninspired defensively, not connected at all, to doing just that. And the Wolves were just a half beat slow. And in the playoffs, when the other team is playing at a breakneck speed and is for the most part disciplined with what they're trying to do, you can't be a half step slow or you're not going to get those open looks. And then when they did, they just missed the open looks. And that's part of this too. But and this isn't the end all be all. I'm looking at the post game shot chart on ESPN, and it looks like the Wolves only attempted 4 corner threes and they missed all of them. I thought Nas hit one, but maybe it was slightly above the break. The Wolves just didn't shoot very many corner threes. Game 1, I think they shot 9 corner threes. They shot 4 in this game by my early count on that. And they missed all of them. So the Lakers did a phenomenal job at limiting those shots for Minnesota. And then the few that they got open, they just missed. There was one early in the game. Jaden missed a wide open 3 from the left corner. There was one late in the game that was wide open. I think it was Nikhil. Just a couple of those shots that in game 1 were falling, and they just didn't fall in this game. But credit the Lakers for adjusting their approach defensively. It could have been much worse than it was in game 1, but the approach and the effort level. And then for the Wolves, I don't think it was far off. It was certainly uninspired, I think, is also, describing the Lakers in game 1. I would also describe the Wolves on offense, at least early actually on both ends of the floor in the first quarter of this game. But ultimately, it was just being a little bit slower than they could afford to be in this game. The decision for Ant to get off the ball, the decision to swing it on the perimeter, the decision to pump fake and drive, it was all just a little too slow, and it allowed the Lakers to recover. If it was a switch and the Wolves kind of had the Lakers caught in a rotation, the Wolves went too slow and the Lakers recovered on the backside of the play. And there wasn't, a potential lob. There wasn't a backdoor cut. And you weren't getting the mismatches that you thought maybe you'd have. There were a couple of times where that happened, where Julius Randle looked like he was going to get to go at Austin Reeves, but he took too long, and the Lakers were able to switch out of it late. Just the pace that the Wolves played with in game 1 just was not there. And this is a great example of the Wolves weren't playing as well offensively. The Lakers played a lot better defensively, and combined, that means the Wolves scored 85 points on 38% shooting. Now, there's an element of bad luck, just like there was an element of good luck in game 1. We'll talk a little bit about that, which is part of my kind of glass half full take on this. So we'll get into that here in a little bit. But my next point is all about the physicality and everything that comes out of that. Yeah, we'll talk a little officiating. All that stuff is coming up here next. Today's episode of Locked On Wolves is brought to us by our title sponsors at Game Time. There's nothing like the atmosphere of an NBA playoff game. Every bucket, every defensive stop, every moment feels huge. It's electric in the arena. And with Game Time, you can be part of it without the stress of last-minute ticket hunting. Game Time makes it fast and easy to get playoff tickets, even when demand is sky high, as it will be at Target Center in Minneapolis on Friday. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down as tip-off gets closer, and their last-minute deals could save you up to 60%. If you're trying to get to a pivotal Game 3 at Target Center, downtown Minneapolis, this Friday night, just 2 days from now, that's the place to look. You can save up to 60% by buying last minute for sports. You can also buy concerts, comedy, theater. Of course, the hot ticket in Minneapolis is Wolves-Lakers on Friday. The all-in pricing that Game Time has means no surprise fees at checkout. What you see is what you pay. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKDOWNNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem the code LOCKEDONNBA. That's LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. All right. So we talked about the offensive flow and lack thereof for Minnesota. Physicality, which impacted the lack of offensive flow for the Wolves. The Lakers came ready to go to be physical early. The Lakers, I would say they hit first. The Wolves didn't adjust. Early in the game, the Lakers were far more physical. By the time the Wolves woke up and were ready for that, the officiating had shifted a little bit. Things got called tighter. I think I'm going to credit the officials a little bit in the sense that they realized this game could go off the rails physicality-wise, and they started calling it tighter. I don't love the adjustment mid-game, but that's clearly what they tried to do, and the Lakers adjusted better than the Wolves did. And ultimately, LA actually got called for more fouls than the Wolves in this game. But what hurt the Wolves was the bunches early. Dante, Nas, those are the two big ones. But like all the fouls the Wolves got called for early in the game interrupted the flow and what should have been a rhythm that the Wolves normally play with. And the rhythm of Chris Finch's substitution patterns was completely disrupted because the Wolves did not adjust to how the game was being officiated. And credit the Lakers for being the aggressor, knowing that they maybe had that advantage on their home court. And then the Wolves just need to do a better job of adjusting. Lakers got away with a lot of stuff early in this game before things started being called tighter. I would say overall, the officiating was not a real issue in this game. However, there were a couple of pivotal calls that really kind of hurt the Wolves. Obviously, the Julius Randle made bucket, and then the follow-through landing on LeBron's face. The dramatic LeBron, like usually that is a made bucket and a foul after the basket because it was after the ball had been released. Like that's my understanding of what that rule is supposed to be. I haven't seen like a good explanation of it, but my understanding of that rule is if it's a follow-through related, it's not on the release of the shot. It's not a clear out to get to the shot. The ball's already in the air, has been released before the foul occurs. The basket should count. And that's my understanding of how that rule is supposed to work and how I've seen it applied before. So that was pretty frustrating. The consecutive reviews that the Timberwolves won was pretty frustrating. They had to use their challenges on those particular plays. There was one other one that I thought came at a really bad time. That other LeBron one in the fourth quarter, there were like two straight LeBron where he just kind of fell over. Oh, the Wolves should have had a transition bucket or the transition opportunity going the other way. LeBron just fell over after grabbing Randle's shorts. And then, Randle kind of jockeyed back a little bit while LeBron had a fistful of shorts. LeBron falls over. They call the foul on Randle. And then after that, there's a delay of game, which of course the Wolves have to avoid this stuff. They get called for delay of game and the Lakers get a free point that way. So that was an extra harmful possession that I thought the officials missed, and then the Wolves compounded it by doing the dumb delay game thing. So yeah, there were some moments that weren't ideal. And certainly the officials could have been better. I thought overall, given how physical the game was, it certainly could. We certainly seen worse, right? Like the Wolves shot 5 more free throws. The Wolves had a couple less fouls called against them. I thought for the most part they did okay, but some of those were just like, come on, guys. And again, the Wolves just have to adjust more quickly to how the game is being called than what they did in this game. We talked about the bench foul trouble, the lack of rhythm there. I do want to talk about TJ Shannon and a point related to the Wolves rotation here. So TJ Shannon played 7 minutes in this game. I think it was end first, early second quarter when the Wolves were desperately looking for some energy. He was a +7 in his 7 minutes. The only, he had 1 bucket on 1 shot and 1 defensive rebound. That was it. He also got called for a foul. I thought, and I tweeted as much, I posted as much on X, I thought he should have started the fourth quarter with the Wolves down 16 to give the team a shot in the arm, go out there, wreak havoc, see what happens. I thought that was a miss by Chris Finch. Now, they did still get it down to 9, but like Dante didn't have it in this game. Nikhil, I don't think played all that great. I know he ended up with a positive plus minus. He was actually Nikhil and TJ Shannon were the only guys with positive plus minuses on the Wolves. But I didn't think Alexander Walker played all that well. He defended great in the second half, but first half he was kind of out of it. Never found his offense similar to game one. Conley wasn't good either. Conley was scoreless. We'll talk more about that. So I don't know why TJ Shannon didn't get another look. I understand why you don't go Jalen Clark because you needed offense. You're down 16, and I know Clark's been a good three-point shooter, but you rely on TJ Shannon in the open floor. He can also score in the half court. He's just such a good kind of straight line driver, using his physicality, getting downhill. I thought we should have seen more TJ Shannon. And I think if the Lakers, if the game were to unfold this way again, which hopefully it doesn't, I think Shannon's a really good option for this type of a game. He's similar body type and size to some of these kind of mid-sized Laker players. I think he can play that same sort of physical breakneck speed that at times the Lakers play with. I know the Lakers overall don't play that fast, but at times they just kind of get out and run. TJ Shannon can be faster than everybody on the floor, basically, and can dunk on guys. He's a volume three-point shooter with distance. He has length and physicality I know he fouled Luka in isolation in this game, but in his one opportunity to guard Doncic. But I think Shannon is a real option. And that was a mistake by Chris Finch to not go back to him. I don't remember who opened the fourth quarter, but I think both Dante and Nikhil were on the floor. I would have had TJ Shannon out there instead of one of those guys. Now, I understand hoping that Dante is going to catch fire because he's the type of guy that does, and then he's lights out. But it didn't appear that was going to happen in this game. He kind of seemed, both DiVincenzo and Naz Reid seemed a little out of it mentally from the get-go. Like they got get-go. Like they both kind of just seemed like shocked that they were getting those fouls called against them. And then they were just like on tilt the rest of the game. That wasn't ideal. And that's another reason, put TJ Shannon out there. I'm not a big, if you're a regular listener, I'm not a big just advocate for throwing the young guys out there. I think sometimes that narrative can take why not play the young guys? But this was the type of situation, especially when you're down 16 going to the fourth quarter, put the high variance guy in the game, put the guy that can create some chaos. You're probably not going to win. Your best shot might be somebody who doesn't know any better, who's just going to go out there and play turn it up to 11, just play at a breakneck speed and try and create chaos and wreak havoc. And that's the type of player TJ Shannon is. So I thought that was a missed opportunity and that Chris Finch probably could have tweaked the rotation a little bit differently there. I want to close by talking individual studs and duds, which will kind of lead us into, well, I guess I got to hit the glass half full first before I do studs and duds. I can do glass half full now. Why not? So my glass half full here for this game is pretty obvious. Game one, the Timberwolves could have won that game without shooting 50% for three. If they shoot 40% for three, they still win that game. They won by 22. That's not the reason why. It's one of the reasons why they won game one by 22, certainly by that margin. But we talked about the athleticism. We talked about creating turnovers and scoring in transition. All those things the Wolves did really well in game one. They could have won game one without shooting that hot. And they could have won game two if their shooting was just normal. I haven't seen this stat for sure, but I bet 5 for 25, 20% from threes about the Wolves' worst three-point shooting game. I bet they don't have more than a couple games where they made 5 or less threes on the season. I'll pull this for tomorrow's show. It was an abnormally bad shooting night, just like the other night was abnormally good. And this game was still somewhat in the balance late. So, in my mind, for as bad as the Wolves were offensively in the first quarter, and as really bad as they were the entire game, again, 38% from the floor, 20% from three, only 9 offensive rebounds, and Mike Conley had 3 of them. That's about as disjointed as the Wolves have looked in I don't know, 3 months offensively. So there's some hope there because that's probably not going to happen again. And if you just flip these results in terms of 3-point shooting, the Wolves probably still win. Maybe you don't win if you shoot 5 of 25 in game one, but I think they might have. And in this game, if they shoot the ball better, they're at least within a possession down the stretch. And maybe they don't, we saw some late game execution issues once again. And actually, I do want to talk about that a little bit. I guess I'm going from glass half full to pointing out a couple of issues. I want to hit a couple of the issues down the stretch for Minnesota, some pivotal possessions that I think they messed up. We'll do studs and duds here at the close, and that's how we'll finish the show here today. Today's episode of Locked On Wolves is brought to us by our friends at Amazon Fire TV. Did you know that your Fire TV is also an Xbox? Turn any TV into your gaming and entertainment hub with Fire TV Stick 4K devices. No console required. Just grab your paired controller, subscribe, or sign into Xbox Game Pass Ultimate with EA Play included, and you're ready to play. Dive into hundreds of premium titles from EA Sports College Football 25 to Call of Duty Black Ops 6 and Avowed as easily as you stream your favorite shows. It's gaming made simple, and it's all on your Fire TV. It really is endless entertainment, by the way. The Fire TV is, we have a Fire TV stick. You can have 4K streaming. There's more than 1.5 million movies and TV episodes from your favorite subscribed services like Netflix, Prime Video, Disney Plus, Max, and more. We have all 4 of those services, and you better believe we use all of them quite a bit. Maybe you're a gamer. We talked already about all the opportunities there with Xbox. Maybe if you're just like a little bit new to playing video games, it's just a great option to start playing Xbox. It's really turnkey to have it right there on your Amazon Fire TV stick. Head to Amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On to get started. Xbox Game Pass Ultimate subscription and compatible controller required. Available on select devices, including Fire TV Stick 4K 2nd Gen, Fire TV Stick 4K Max 1st and 2nd Gen, and Fire TV Cube 3rd Gen. All right, real quick before we get to studs and duds, I want to point out a couple of possessions that I marked down as they were happening as like, hey, this wasn't a great moment, and they had an opportunity to come back, and it didn't happen. Final minute of the third quarter. I think this one will get lost, but it stuck out to me in the moment. Minnesota had been down 20 just seconds. Remember, early in the third, they push it to 9, or they get it down to 9. It gets pushed back up to 20. Gobert makes an alley-oop dunk after a lob from Dante. So it's an 18-point game with just under 2 to play. Luka takes a bad shot on the other end. The Wolves force him into a tough floater. Ant grabs the rebound. They come down. Dante scores. It's now a 16-point game with a minute and a half. The Wolves have a little bit of momentum, 2 buckets in 30 seconds. Gabe Vincent, I think, airballs a shot from the corner. 16-point game. The Wolves coming back the other way. Immediately, Nickeil Alexander-Walker keeps the ball and shoots like a crazy, weird runner in the paint trying to get a foul call. If they take just have a normal possession and get a bucket, it's a 14-point, maybe a 13-point game. Instead, he misses this crazy shot. 7 seconds later, Rui Hachimura is converted an alley-oop on the other end. It ends up a 16-point game at the end of the quarter. There's a bit of a back and forth. I thought that was a miss. The Wolves had momentum. They could have made it a 6 or 7-0 run and pushed it to 13 or 14 points with a minute left in the quarter with the momentum. Instead, they lost the momentum, and it was still 16 at the end of the quarter. I thought that was a big miss. The big one is pretty obvious. Late in the game, the Wolves found a way to still turn this into late game execution issues, which we've seen all season. And let's see. This was with 2 minutes and 47 seconds left. Luka turns it over, right? The Lakers call timeout. JJ Redick's mad. It's a 9-point game right after Naz hits a tough shot in the paint off of a Luka missed defensive rotation. 3 minutes to play. Lakers call timeout. Luka gets stuck in the corner, makes a bad pass. So multiple bad Luka plays in a row. Makes a bad pass. Naz gets it to Ant right at half court. Ant goes behind the back. LeBron comes from out of nowhere, basically from Ant's 5 o'clock, swipes the ball, heads back the other way, and scores. It was a 9-point game with 2:45 to go when Ant got the ball. A 9-point game with 2:45 to go. Wolves had like a 3-on-2 in the half court, or in the fast break in the open floor. If Ant shoots a 3 and makes it there, it's a 6-point game. If the Wolves score, on a layup in transition there, it's a 7-point game, which is as close as the Wolves would have been since early in the first quarter. Instead, LeBron scores. It's now an 11-point game. And then on the next possession, the Wolves have a dribble the air out of the ball possession, goes out of bounds. They have 2 seconds on the shot clock. McDaniels doesn't see it when the ball is inbounded somehow after like a 30-second, in between the ball going out of bounds and inbounding it. Undoubtedly, there's a play call. How does he not know there's only 2 seconds left on the shot clock? I don't know. And the Wolves turned it over on the shot clock violation. still down 11, and nobody scores for the next minute and a half until Nas makes a couple of free throws with just a minute to play, still down 11. So, like, that was another opportunity. You're only down 11, hit a bucket at 8 points with 2 minutes to play. Much stranger things have happened. Just another bad late game execution issue. And in between there was another, there was a bad, Jaden McDaniels charge. Probably wouldn't have mattered because there was a minute and a half left, down 11. There was also a questionable Ant three-pointer in there when they had gotten it back to 9 that then led to a LeBron score in transition on the other end. That was with about 5.5 to play. So, like, we can't nitpick that stuff early in the game because there were so many more like macro issues. But late in the game, the execution issues reared their ugly head once again for the Wolves. All right, quickly, studs and duds. For Minnesota, Julius Randle was the best player on the floor, bar none. I know there were some bad possessions late. I know he was a minus 14. I get it. I get all that. Show me a Timberwolves player that played better. And yes, that says something about the whole team because nobody played better than Julius Randle. He was basically the reason they weren't down 30 in the first half. He had 27 points on 17 shots, 2 of 4 on threes, including a big one in the second half, 7 of 9 at the line, 6 assists, only 1 turnover after a 7-turnover game in game 1. He did have 5 fouls. He was apoplectic at the officials many times, although not nearly as much as Luka. 27, 6, and 4 is a fine game for Julius Randle. Probably one of his better playoff games ever. I would say it's actually kind of hard to pick a second stud. Like, Julius had 27, Edwards had 25. Nobody else had more than 9 points on the Wolves. If I had to pick a second stud, it's probably Ant. 25 points on 22 shots, 2 of 8 on threes, only 4 free throw attempts. He was 8 of 14 on 2-point attempts. 6 boards, no assists after a 9-assist, 1 turnover game in game 1. We talked about the slow and sometimes non-existent, just like decision paralysis from the Wolves in this game. I should have cited the assist number earlier. The Wolves only had 14 assists for the game. 6 of them were from Randle. 0 were from Anthony Edwards in 40 minutes of play. Kind of the opposite of what he did in game 1. So really, Julius Randle is the only stud. If I had to pick duds, I typically do a max of 2. There's a lot of guys that could fit in the dud list. Actually, I could give TJ Shannon a stud. Why not? Like, plus 7 in 7 minutes in a game they lost by 9. Yeah, I mean, he played well. I'd have to go Jaden McDaniels. I thought he missed a couple of open threes, and there were some bad decisions late. As good as he was in game 1, he just looked. And it started great. I think he made the Wolves' first bucket too, and it was like, all right, here we go again. Jaden's back. Not so much. Tough game for Jaden McDaniels. Mike Conley, obviously a dud in this game. No points in 21 minutes. 0 of 5 shooting. Missed all of his 3-point attempts. 1 assist, 1 turnover. A clear just negative in 21 minutes. And then Dante would be. I guess I'm going 3 duds in this game. And Nas wasn't good either. Really, like most of these guys just didn't play well. Dante was somehow at minus 17 in 16 minutes in a game the Wolves only lost by 9. He turned it over a couple of times, missed his 3-point attempts. One of them was a very questionable attempt in terms of shot selection. So not a great DiVincenzo game. But again, this is kind of feeds into the glass half full thing. Like, as good as some of these guys were in game 1, they were equally as bad in game 2. What's the reality? Well, the reality is they're somewhere in the middle. And they're closer to what they were in game 1 than game 2. And I know that may sound crazy to Lakers fans, but it's true. Naz Reid won the 6th man of the year last year. Dante DiVincenzo, was awesome last year and this year. Like, they're closer to what they were in game 1 than what they were in game 2. So if they play like they did, if they play somewhere in between, the Wolves will be in good shape. They'll be in good shape in game 3. If you missed the live postcast with Jack and Luke over at Locked On Sports Minnesota, it's the episode right before this one in your Locked On Wolves audio feed. Go live for the postcast again on Friday after game 3. Actually, I believe I'm hosting that one. So myself and Jack Borman Friday night. Jack will be at Target Center. We'll talk Wolves-Lakers game 3 immediately following. I'll be back again Thursday and Friday. Likely we'll have Jack on the show, maybe Friday's show, to kind of preview game 3. He was in LA. We'll talk about what he thinks the Wolves need to bring to game 3 and kind of peeking ahead at I think game 4 is Sunday afternoon as well. So a couple of big weekend games. So we'll do that over the next 2 days. And again, the postcast Friday night as well. A big thank you for making Locked On Wolves your first listen every single day. Of course, this show is free and available everywhere. That includes YouTube as well as all of your favorite audio platforms. can also watch on the Locked On Sports Minnesota app on Roku and Amazon Fire TV. And a reminder about the newsletter. Of course, the Wolves are ready for playoff basketball, earning the split in LA, and Locked On Wolves has you covered every step of the way. Subscribe to the Locked On Wolves podcast newsletter for expert analysis, insider insights, and all the playoff action delivered straight to your inbox for free. As a subscriber, if you subscribe before the 30th, you'll be entered to win one of these three amazing prizes: a $2,500 Best Buy gift card, a $300 Game Time gift card, or a $200 Fanatics gift card. Again, easy and free to enter. Simply subscribe to the Locked On Wolves podcast newsletter between now and the end of the month, April 30th, to be automatically entered to win. That's a week from today. Don't miss a moment of the Wolves championship run. Join the Locked On Wolves newsletter today and experience the playoffs like never before. Subscribe today and enter to win by clicking the link in the description. That's all we got for you today. Big thank you for making Locked On Wolves your first listen. Of course, we're part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Remember, the Locked On Network is your local experts on all the biggest stories. Once again, I'm Ben Beecken. This is the Locked On Wolves podcast, and we'll catch you next time.